Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for coming to our webinar. I hope you're all having a great week so far. Today, we're honored to have IBM champion Christian Gudeman of WebGate Consulting and IBM champion Martin Yanok with us for their session titled SmartNSF 100% Smart and in Color. This webinar is brought to you as part of the free monthly webinar series from Team Studio and TLCC. My name is Courtney. I'm the marketing manager at Team Studio. I'm here today helping to run this webinar along with Howard Greenberg from TLCC. Application modernization is a really hot topic these days. Here at Team Studio, we offer a tool in this space called Team Studio Advisor. It systematically scans your Domino servers and database designs and recommends a forward path for each application. It's priced per server and is currently on version 6.1.4. You can learn more about this tool on our website and catch up with Team Studio's latest on our blog. Now, Howard at TLCC is going to go over some administrative items for this webinar, like instructions on how to ask questions. Then we'll give Martin and Christian the floor. Over to you, Howard.
Oh, thank you, Courtney, and good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Let me just get my screen going here. And hopefully you're seeing my screen. Just a little bit about TLCC. We've been around for a little while, since 1997, and specialize in self-paced courses for Notes and Domino. We've been doing XPages for since the beta days, the early days, and we have 7 XPages courses. We also do on-site private classes, and as well as mentoring and consulting. Our most popular XPages course is our free one, which is a great introduction to XPages. You can sign up for that at our website, no obligation. And then we have 7 other courses, including courses for people who want to use and learn Java in their XPages applications. I just want to give a shout out about the MW Lug conference. This is going to happen in August. It's Tuesday to Thursday. They're about to announce, I think, in the next few days, the sessions for the conference. But there will be 40 sessions and a number of workshops in a number of different topics. You know, your typical development admin around the IBM collaborative systems, solutions products, but also there's going to be sessions on things like Docker and things that kind of go beyond our normal world. So it's a great way to kind of get an introduction to some other topics that are of interest to the industry and not just our little Notes and Domino and connections world. This all costs the whole amount of $75. And that actually includes some receptions and lunches and things like that. On Friday, we're going to have an optional trip to the Air and Space Museum out by Dulles Airport. We'll be arranging a bus transportation. And so if you do attend, please stay an extra day. And it's a great place, if you've never been there, to immerse yourself in aviation. So a word about our previous webinars. We have a couple years worth of previous webinars on some great topics, and those can be linked to from our website. The URL's up on the screen. So I encourage you to take a look at those and watch a few of those previous webinars. As far as asking questions, in the GoToWebinar interface, which might have slightly different colors than what you see on my screen. It seems like they change that every month. But you can go to the questions pane and you can ask your questions at any time. We encourage you to ask your questions as you have them, as Martin and Christian are speaking. And we'll respond to your questions at the end of the presentation verbally. So put your questions in the questions pane, and we're going to ask them of Martin and Christian at the end of their presentation. So on to our presentation. Martin and Christian are both IBM champions. and both very involved in OpenNTF. Christian is the chairman of the OpenNTF organization. Martin is from Prague, Czechoslovakia, and Christian lives just outside of Zurich. So we have an international cast of presenters today. So Christian, go ahead and get started. Let me hand the controls over to you.
Thank you for the nice introduction, and hello everybody. We will today show the current situation and the current code drop of SmartNSF, and I hope that we can go through the following agenda. We will talk a little bit about the why. It's always about the why. And when I've explained all that stuff, all the nice whistle and bells, then we go to the hard stuff, and that's the moment where Martin can show you what he has realized all about the why. So let's start with the why. Can we go a slide? Next slide. Yeah. And you may ask why having another tool for app modernization, or why having another tool that helps us to bring more value to our Domino application, to our old Notes application, or even to new application. And I have to tell you a story about this. It all began with a paper I wrote, that's the Domino detail and devil problem. I had a nice conversation with some people from the product management, and I figured out that some of them do not have this view of application development that I have, and I start to explain them why is Domino so special? Why are Notes applications so special? Because in the Domino and detail and devil problem, I figured out that business logic is everywhere. And if we can go to the next slide, I try to explain this a little bit deeper, because most people think about business logic and do not make any difference between business logic and application behavior. And this mix of business logic and application behavior, this is one of the strengths that the Notes platform has. So if you're designing a form, having some buttons there, and implementing a pick list and all this stuff, you are implementing application behavior. But if you have, with this pick list, filled out some additional values and changing a state from 1 to 2, that's business logic and application behavior. So we have in the Notes world a mixture of application behavior and business logic. But let me explain what business logic is from my point of view. That's not an academical conclusion or an academical view. And then let me explain what application behavior is from my point of view. And then you see the difference and how this affects all of our thinking. First, I think business logic is the thing that has no UI. That's very important. It's absolutely independent from any UI. So one of the typical rules that we have at WebGate is if we register a new address of a customer, and if we want to set the state of this address to customer, not only prospect or lead, we have also to enter a contact person and a billing address. That are typical business rules at WebGate. And our business logic is implemented that you can't save the record. You will get a violation if you want to save a record without all this information, without the billing address, without the direct contact. So that's business logic. It doesn't relate to any UI. Or think about another kind of business logic, the approval of an expense. It has to be approved by your direct manager if it's under $100, if it's more than $100, it has to go to a line of business manager, or if it's more than $1,000, there have to be an approval by the CFO. That's business logic, has no relation to any UI. And it's very important. We have a lot of proven business logic inside of Notes applications. And I have make some calculation how many Notes applications are still in place and still valid. And I have made some research inside Switzerland to figure it out. And then, you know, Switzerland, small country and so on, try to make a global scale. And if I have a pessimistic view of this, I would say there are nearly a million of Notes application out there running. If I have a more optimistic calculation, I'm coming up to 5 to 10 million applications running out there with proven business logic in place. So, but what is application behavior? Application behavior is how do I enter stuff? And application behavior is device or let's say application agnostic. So if I'm on my mobile device and I want to enter the company address with the billing address and the contact, the application behavior maybe gives me the capability that I can select the address details directly from my address book and also the contact details, and they will be filled in. The business logic, on the other hand, will check if I have filled in all the stuff right. But the application behavior on my mobile device is completely different than the application behavior that I may have on my web device. If I'm using the browser to enter all this information, maybe I have to fill out everything by hand, or there is a local directory included, maybe. But it's application behavior. It's also application behavior how I have to select stuff. So like type ahead for numbers and all this stuff. As I said, it's client agnostic because the client acts different. So that's application behavior. And now the cool thing with Notes was that this application behavior is so well organized that you could put business logic everywhere. And now we had the problem that we have to think, how can we start with in a new world with modernization, in a world where we separate the application behavior into a web client and having the business logic covered with a microservice. So how can we turn Notes application into microservice? And the answer from a lot of people was using Domino data access services. And I have to say, no, sorry, don't do this. If you want to enable Domino data access service, you have to select 5 different places that Domino data access service is enabled. There is a reason why you have to select 5 different places, because it's dangerous. Because Domino data access service turns your Notes database into a dumb and stupid document store. And it doesn't cover any business logic. If you do not seal down the HTTP access, it's possible with Domino data access service that you can change single values of a document if you're having the right to write to this document. So approving your own expense, maybe no problem. It depends a little bit on the design that your former developer has. So how can we now expose a microservice in a way that we prevent our business logic to be affected? Let's go to the next slide. I'll show you the inspiration that I had. And I have to say, I have to think about this several nights. And it was very funny because on my birthday, I had this clear vision of SmartNSF. I did understand what we have to do. And this clear vision, to be honest, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, as the most of our developers do, and I always do. I figured out I want to have something that works like Node.js Express. I want to define my API in a single file, and I want to say how I can expose this API. And then I said to myself, and this has to be integrated in a way into the Domino Designer that everybody sees it right in your face and says, okay, here is something new I have to try out and figure out how it works. And that was the birth of SmartNSF. And to be honest, there are several other ways how you can build REST services inside of a Nodes application. And I know some of them are a little bit faster than SmartNSF. Some of them are a little bit lower than SmartNSF, but none of them have the same development speed that you can have with SmartNSF. SmartNSF let you turn a simple NSF into a microservice within minutes. And here is the deal that I have to tell you. If there is a problem like, hey, can you bring this Nodes application into our new web framework? And you can say, okay, I can build for this proven business logic that you have in this Nodes application, a microservice within, let's say, 1 day. You can build it with 1 hour, the whole microservice, test it another hour, and you're getting back 6 hours that you can go and have go to the lake and swim or have some barbecue or something like that. And everybody is still impressed when they have at the next day a URL they can call, authenticate them by themselves, and see with a Swagger file or with the Swagger UI how your microservice runs. And the sample that we will show, I hope I'm right, Martin has not changed anything. We will show you how you can enable a simple discussion database to a microservice and how you can access this with Postman or other tools. Martin, are you ready to take over now and explain how the things with this router stuff works?
Yes. So I may have started with sorry, something else here. No, let me go.
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay, no problem. I wanted to start with the installation, but I guess all of our audience already know how to install stuff into the designer and into the update site NSF on the server. So I just gonna go ahead and skip this. If you want to know how to do this, we have documentation on a OpenAPI site. So all the information about how to install it and how to start with the project are already there. But let me walk you through that. As Christian said, with SmartNSF, you can quite easily and quickly define the routes that you can then access from some other tools or as other applications to get the data. The important thing is that you can, like this. Okay, let me go back one step. After installing the designer part of the SmartNSF, in every NSF that you open in designer under the application configuration, you see a new design element called Express API routes, which allows you to define the routes. Each route is defined like this. You start with router, and then after the dot, you get the method. You put the method that you want this route to listen on. So in this case, we're setting up a route that's listening for the GET requests on a path, which is topics / and then this is a placeholder for the value that you're supposed to use in the URL as a parameter. You're passing as a parameter to the service. As you can see, we are defining that this placeholder ID is going to be assigned as a key variable name. That's a part of the strategy. Strategies are the way that you're telling the SmartNSF what kind of the data you want to get. We have several strategies. So let me go back to the slide. You can either get a single document by unit, or by key from the view, or a list of documents from the database by doing a full text search, or from the database by doing a formula, which is basically you're passing a formula like the view formula. So if you don't have access to the database, you can't, or you don't want to mess with the views, you can make the view on the fly by providing the formula that will build the notes, the document collection, which is defined by the formula. So it's the same way. If you do a view with select form equals something, you can do the same, but on the fly. You can also get all the documents by the view, and you can get the documents from the view by key. These strategies, the first 6 of them, they are always dealing with the document itself. So they are quite they are slower than the view entries ones. These one just read the view itself, so not the underlying documents. They simply read the view entries and return the data to you. So this is the fastest way to get the data from your data from your views. And there is a note, and it's an important one. All the view entries and document strategies also have the non-paged versions, simply without the paged, without the paged part. But we strongly encourage you not to use them because they return all the data at once, which means that if you have a database with a high number of documents, you can end up with a very, very long response with a lot of data being sent over the network, and that's something that you probably don't want to do. So that's the basic about the router. I guess, Christian, what was the next in the slide? Let's go. Okay, the methods. Okay, I'll do this one as well. So as you probably know, the REST APIs, or the REST methods use several HTTP methods. We now support only get, post, and delete, not just get and post. But there is a problem with put on the Domino servers. It's not allowed by default. It's not. You have to go to the configuration and allow it. So we're now for now we're using post even to update the object, but I think it's quite okay. I've seen this several times, even in different products. So it seems to be a quite common approach. Not only the problem with Domino in this case. Okay. This is pretty much the same strategies, okay? And we have an important slide about the events, and maybe Christian, you want to talk about those? Christian, are you there? Okay.
That's always the trick with mute and unmute. So I was sitting there very relaxed and listened to all the things that you have to say, because I did not finish my part well, but you did do it very, very good explain. So let's go to the events. The events are executed during the evaluation of a route. So if you have a route called topics or get topics, you will get back maybe all the topics of a discussion database. So during the execution of this route, we have first a validate event. In the validate event, you can validate if the request that is coming into the system is valid. So if you expect some kind of parameters and these parameters are not set, you can throw an exception and it's stopped. We have a preload document, a postload, and a post new document event. So that means you can intercept all these moments inside of the configuration. And the very cool stuff here is you can use Groovy as a language to modify the payload or also the documents. We will see that later on in a sample. Also, we have a pre-save and the post-save and the pre-submit. That means this allows you to intercept every place inside the generation of the answer or inside the processing of a post event. And that's very cool. That gives you capabilities you can't imagine. Can we go to the router example? I want to show it a little bit deeper because sorry, not to them, to the client itself. Yeah. So if we see here in line 31, we are using a pre-submit event at this part. And if you take a look at the notation, you figured out there is a context and there is a document. These variables are pre-filled. And the context is very powerful. In the context, there is a lot of stuff. There is your HTTP request, there is your HTTP response, there is your session, there will be with beta 4 your session as signer, there is the current user inside and many things more. That's the reason why we are working hard to make type ahead available for you, because this object is growing, and especially the context itself has another object we called the NSF helper. The NSF helper is even more powerful. Maybe when we scroll down later, we will see a little bit more. And we also have in the pre-submit event the document, the affected document. And what you see here is that we define in line 33 a date that's not a Java util date, it's a Java SQL date. That's very cool with Groovy. And then we take the timestamp out of this date, take from the context the result payload. So the result payload is set at the moment when a strategy is evaluated and prepared to be submitted. That's the reason why we call this event pre-submit. And we are changing that payload because the payload is a JSON object. We are changing it and adding a new value called timestamp and adding there the current timestamp. Now imagine this. In this context of pre-submit, you can also evaluate formulas. So think about this. If you need for any reason a return of a DB lookup, maybe for keywords or whatever, here is the place where you can inject all this stuff. And if we scroll a little bit down to the router post topics ID, yes, here we are. Are we already? Yeah.
Sorry, ID?
Yeah, no, the pre-save is okay. As
this one?
The pre-save, yeah, because it shows even a little bit more. This pre-save document event shows you very cool stuff. We are taking out from the context the router variable parent ID. We are going line 257, taking the NSF helper out, and we are using the NSF helper to make document as child, because that's common stuff that you have parent and child documents, giving the parent ID and the document. And at last, we are executing all the business logic that is inside of the form with compute with form. So many of you would say, okay, that's not usual to have business logic inside of a form. Sorry, and that's not true. That's very usual. But if you are more structured in a way of development, then you have everything out in script libraries that may be executing agents or could wrap this agent. You won't believe, but NSF helper has also a execute agent with document. So you can execute an agent with this document. And think about this. You can do this in any event that we have. You can do it in a validate event. You can do it pre load document, post load document, post new document, pre-save document, post save document, or even in the pre-submit event. You have any time the chance to intercept the call. And if you take a look at this, we have 261 lines to define the full REST API from this discussion database, even with more stuff. I saw a lot of cool stuff inside that I really want to have, Martin, later, that I can extend the router of the demo application, because I saw you have done some cool stuff. So can we have this router get topics now that you can show how this works?
Sure. So first of all, there are two parameters that you can set and that I'm not setting now, but these are important and these are common for all the strategies. By default, the SmartNSF works on the database that is defined in, but you can as well specify database name parameter with the path to the database which you want to read data from. So in this case, I would be reading documents from the database on my server, which is called express2.nsf. Let me leave it like this for now. And the other option is to check the access permission for this route. We can check for if the user is member of some group, which is what you see here. So I'm now using the anonymous access. So there is a chance that the anonymous user is not part of the local domain admins. It's definitely recommended. But on my test server, it might be the other way around, but it doesn't matter. If you want to check for the role, no problem. You just simply use the brackets as defining a role in the database. So like this, it will be checking for a role called local domain admins, which I don't have as well. So let's leave the access permission commented out so the application works. So let me just quickly walk you through the definition of the data here. I've already told you that you can define the placeholder for the parameter that you will be putting into the URL, map it to the key variable name, and then you're defining the map.json parameters, or I don't know how to call it, but okay, you know what I mean. The first part of the map.json, the first parameter is the name of the nodes field that you want to read data from. Then you define the JSON name of the field, so you can hit a different one. That's what I did on this line. So I'm reading the subject field from the database or from the document and sending it out to the JSON as topic. This is a very straightforward. You know that I'm defining a string. I want to return the string. If I want to return the value that is not part of the document, I can use the formula. So this one is easy. I'm just using document unique ID, which will hopefully return the unique ID of the document. On the line 12, we can see how can you get the date value, and we have also the name value. But for JSON, we're sending it as a string because JSON has no way of knowing of the type other than if it's string or number. So or boolean. So in this case, even though this is a name, we will be sending it as a string. We also support the rich text fields with the help of the XPages runtime environment. So the produced HTML is the same as you will get if you put this field on a rich text element in an XPage. So what we hopefully will get back from the SmartNSF when we ask this route will be the HTML representation of the rich text field stored in the document. And we have a we have the field categories, which is multi-value. So we will be returning it as an array of strings. So let's try it. So I'll do it like this. Okay, just to prove that it's really working. So in this case, let me just walk you through this one. This is the address, the database I've been just showing you in the designer on my server, and then when you add the /xsp/.xrest, it's the base address. The base address. After this point, SmartNSF is listening for the requests, and then when the request comes, it's trying to check which route should be assigned to this request. So in this case, we are defining we are going to the topics and passing the unit of the document. So when we execute the query, we're getting back the document that has this unique ID. So let me go back to the. So in this case, we can, for example, to show you that it's really working, I'm gonna comment this out, and this won't prove anything. Sorry, because there wasn't a category field on the document, but this should work. So now, sorry, I haven't saved it. Like this. So now we're not getting the ID back because we've changed the definition of the map.json parameters. Let me go quickly through the other options, just to quickly show you the differences that are for the other strategies. What is a bit different to the first example is the view entry strategy, which just reads the view entries from the view. So in this case, we have a special placeholder for the unit. So instead of doing a formula add document unique ID, you simply say that you want add unit to be returned, and SmartNSF takes care about it. I'll show you the view. It's my topic, I think. Yeah. Okay, so it's a simple view with the topics. I guess they are sorted descending. There is a date field and there's categories field in my database. So what I'm defining here is for each view entry of this view, return a unique ID of the document, subject, categories, and this is important one, when the programmatic name of the column is not the name of the field, you have to enter the string, whatever it's assigned, and the string has to be escaped with the backslash. So this is very important. It won't work if you omit the backslash. So let me show you that it works. It's the entries. So again, same database, same path, only the entries are here. When I send the request, it's showing me that we have a little over 200,000 documents in this database, just small test data, and it's returning us first 10 documents of the set. If I have used the view entries without the paged, this would return all 200 documents, and that's something that I really don't want to show you because we don't have enough time for it to wait to finish, because it's just too big time, too big data set.
But Martin, show something else. Show the people how they can access document 100,000 and the next 25. How must the URL look like? So
for the page strategies, all the page strategies except two parameters. The first parameter is called start, which is quite straightforward. So let's say we start at 200,000, and this, because of trick, I have no idea. Okay, and then a count of documents. So let's say I want to just 2 of them. This is going to take a while because we have to skip the whole 200,000 documents and show them. So this is the way how to page through the data set. I guess it's very handy when you're doing some mobile development or even the web development, because you just have to show a subset of documents to your user, because I can't think about the use case where presenting a user with several thousand documents at once makes sense. So let me show you something else. We also have strategies for defining the formula. I've already been talking about that. So this one, I'm defining a route which will listen for GET requests on this path, and what it will do, it will on the fly generate a view, or not the view, but just the document collection, which this hard-coded formula with this hard-coded formula. So all the documents in my database that have categories cat1 or cat2, this strategy also allows you to pass the parameter from the URL. So on this route, on topics /formula /something, I will be sending that something to the formula, which will select the documents whose author is the parameter that we are sending there. So let me show you this one. Should be this. So there should be some documents by me, hopefully. Okay, again, it took like 6 seconds, so it's not that fast, but bear in mind it's 2,000 documents that, pardon, it's 200,000 documents that you have to go through to create this document collection. So it's not that bad, I guess. And as you can see, these 2 documents will have my surname in an author field. If I'm gonna go here and take a look about anonymous, it should be about, okay, it's 9 of them there. See, all the others were created under my other ID, so they have a different name there, but it's over 200,000. I'm not gonna show you that, no problem with, but it would work, of course. So posting, or let me first go to the delete. Even though it's the latest, it's the last step, last logical step usually. So here I have a document which is a topic 1 with this URL, unit, and I can then use the same URL with the same unit, but instead of get, I'm sending a delete. And if I do it, this document has been deleted. We can check for it. So if we try to get it again, it's no longer there. We are getting for not found HTTP status. And creating the documents. First route, here it is. So at the same route, so it's topic / and then the unit of the document. I can create a document by sending the data that I want to be there. Just take a look at this parameter. In this case, first of all, we have to send some data to SmartNSF to create the document. And some of the data are, we're not supposed to say, we're not supposed to send document unique ID. That would be strange if we could do that. So in this case, we are saying that this map.json line is there only for the part where the SmartNSF is sending data back to you. So when it's reading the data, or for you to read, and the same is with the outer. So other fields we are supposed to send data in. So this case, I have a JSON with topic created from. Let me change it so to prove it's really working. So I'll be sending a topic, content, and categories, and this is again a special placeholder when we want to send create a new document. So instead of sending of a unit, which we don't have yet, we send add new, which instructs SmartNSF to create a document for us. So when I execute this one, I'm getting back the same data that I have sent, which seems okay. Also, I can see that there is an ID, the new ID of the document that has been created, and because I'm not authenticated, there is no author of the document yet. But if I had been, it will work. Yeah, you just have to trust me, guys. And just to check that the document is really there, if I go to my get root, I'm getting back the information with the created from Webinar. I don't think that we need to go through all the strategies, but if you want me to do, if you want me, Christian, to do it, I can. But I guess that's something that everybody can read in the documentation. So I think we can start talking about our future plans, or not the future plans. There are some things are already there, right? So I'd like to show the Swagger UI, and I want you to talk about it a bit, because it's your baby, not mine.
It's my baby. Okay, so because what you have seen now is how you can build a REST API within minutes to cover all your business logic. So what does this mean? It does mean at the end of the day that someone has to build a new UI. And there is one thing that is everywhere in common. People who want to build a new UI also want to have documentation. And the ones who know me knows that I don't like documentation. But one of the cool stuff is with the OpenAPI specification called Swagger, or also known as Swagger specification, it's easy to have a documentation that also can be used to generate the code that you need for your UI, for building a Node.js application or something else. So, Martin, can you go to a normal web browser and do a magic trick?
Sorry, my mistake.
Are you no longer? So, but first, how do I get to this Swagger UI? First is, can you please enter the URL that you have now here in?
It's here.
Okay. Yeah.
You can see it here. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Please click on the YAML file first, that everybody sees. That's a typical Swagger specification file. Everybody in the new bright world of web and microservices loves these files, because with that file they can do nearly everything. If you take this file and use CodeGen, you can build the whole Angular client or so on. And now if you replace the YAML with Swagger and press enter, voila, it's building the Swagger UI or the Swagger documentation. And here you have a full documentation of the whole API. And even better, please open the get entries. So if you open it, you find all the stuff about the parameters you can give, and you can try it. You can execute the call. So when you execute it, and you will get back the whole document model. So you can try out the whole API. So that's the URL you have to give to this guy that comes to you maybe Monday morning with a smile and say, oh, it would be nice if we would have your application as a microservice. And on Tuesday, you give him this URL and said, okay, now please program your UI for this. And you can try out gets, you can try out posts, deletes, you can definitely try out everything. And that's very cool and very clever, because now you are capable to deliver them all the things they need. What we are doing here is to make it even more with more description, that every parameter can also have some kind of a description inside. So that's things we are working on. But I think that's very cool stuff. And also what we will include is the official YAML file that are available for all the Domino Access services, not only for the data services, but also for email, free time, and calendar, and all the upcoming REST services that IBM is providing via the extension library. Let's talk a little bit about the future of this. First, we have to bring out Beta 4 for sure, and the release. We are one step before the release, but I want to make sure that Beta 4 goes out first, that everybody can a little bit test and have some experience. It's nearly feature complete. So the things that we have in our mind for our first release are in place. Second, what we will do is we will bring this to the extension library X. The extension library X, or called XlibX, is the incubator for coming into the product. And our intention is to deliver SmartNSF into the product with feature pack 10. So that means it has to be on the extension library X with feature pack 8, be proven with feature pack 9 in XlibX, and then move to the extension library. That's our intention, our idea, and also some kind of common agreed plan that you will get support for this. Second thing is, once it's done, it's everything inside. You heard about this word groovy. So we will, under the hood, also implement groovy as second possibility for server-side execution inside of the XPage engine. So everything is already prepared to be enabled, that you can use Groovy instead of server-side JavaScript, or mix it with server-side JavaScript to execute. And Groovy is a very cool language. It's very powerful. You can do in Groovy stuff where you have to break down your hands to write it in Java. But as I said, plans for the future, and you all know plans are tends to change sometime. But that's the current situation where we are. So what do we also have on our slides? Yeah, it's now on you. Call to action. I want to encourage you, download the project, go to OpenNSF, Slack, Space, and become a part of SmartNSF. Ask questions, share your experience. Documentation is be found in our wiki, but also can be changed and added and challenged, and start participating. We had a lot of discussions about performance. The latest code drop is very fast, but if there are ideas on how to make especially the view entry code faster. It's an open source project. Give us idea how we can optimize this to perform as best as possible. And again, think about this. We have proven notes application out there with proven business logic. I think more than 1 of a million of them that are still in place. And with SmartNSF, you have a tool to make them to a smart microservice, and you can consume that microservice from a Node.js application or inside an XPage application, or if you have some old style or very old style Nodes web application, you can also consume all the REST services direct there. So it's an addition to your set of weapons, how you can modernize and webify application in a modern world. And documentation this time is fully included. Martin, do you want to add something to these words?
I just want to point out that the beta 3 that is already available has most of the things that you have seen today. So what we are missing there is, I think, the view entries by category strategy and some bug fixes, but not some deliberate bugs, but some edge cases and small troubles. So the beta 3 is quite ready to be used, I guess. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the Swagger. Christian, was it in beta 3 or not?
No, that was not in beta 3, not in that quality we have. And it's my intent to deliver beta 4 as soon as possible. It's always a little bit, it depends a little bit on the workload that I have, but it could be that until end of this week, beta 4 is out.
Okay, cool. So until then, feel free to download the beta 3, which is already available, and give it a try.
So now back to Howard.
Well, thanks, Christian and Martin. That was very interesting. So maybe you can clarify. I know, Christian, you kind of touched on this at the very end, but some folks were kind of mixing this up in terms of, is this an XPages thing? Is it not? Can you just kind of clarify that this is something that not really related to XPages? I guess you could use it in your XPages, but it's basically the goal is to produce JSON.
Yes. So to make this clear, we are using a part of the XPage engine to deliver these REST services. But we are not initializing so far a faces context like you have in XPages. That means so far, but it will change with the next release. Maybe it's also included in beta 4. It depends a little bit. But the thing is, if I have a servlet, I can run this servlet without any faces context. So that means I have no access to the session scope, the application scope, and the request scope from the XPage engine. If I initialize a faces context, I'm capable to execute all this application scope and so on stuff. And that's the thing we are thinking on, how we can leverage this. I had some discussions with Martin Donnelly also about this when we were together in Antwerp. And it's our intent to make it available, that you can use all the beans that you maybe have already in the backend. But what I don't want to have is to have it overload. That means it should be enabled in the router. Why do I not want to have it overload? There are several customers out there who did not make the jump on XPages because of the learning curve. And for this reason, we have said, okay, we need something, learning curve very easy, leverage the knowledge that you have, protecting the business logic, and not forcing them to use too much, but giving them already a strategy to having app modernization. That's the reason why SmartNSF is very small, has a small footprint, and also not a fully fledged XPage extension. The reason is to keep things simple and make it not too complex. Even with, I think we have 13 strategies, we are on the upper limit. It should be easier than that. Hope that answers the question and makes not more confusion.
Yeah, so basically, this to put it in simple terms, this really has nothing to do with an XPages application. Of course, an XPages application could consume the JSON, but this is totally different from XPages. I guess is the main point we want to make sure everyone understands. This isn't XPages. It's just a way of getting data out to a client. That client might be an XPages app, but could be something totally different, like Angular or whatever, right? Is that a
Correct.
good way to summarize it? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. Well, you got Don so excited here. Oh, by the way, you know, to ask questions, again, we're using the questions pane. I have that slide up on the screen right now. So you got Don so excited. He said, this is brilliant. And he next went ahead and downloaded the zip file. And he was kind of wondering, okay, there's 3 zips and a sample NSF. Like, what exactly, you know, is there a place to go to kind of help in installing it? And also, let me add to that, I had a question, that nice little REST viewer that you had, is that included in the application?
Okay. Let me answer the packaging. The packaging contains several things because it's an open source package. First, it contains all the source code. You can, if you're not interested in the source code, you can fire and forget it and say, okay, that's not for me. Then we have a thing that is called the designer package. The designer is mentioned to be installed into your Domino designer. There is a documentation how to do this on our wiki. And there is a server package, and the server package is intended to be installed like you do it with the extension library if you want to use a new version direct on your server. We recommend, or I recommend, maybe Martin has not experience, but I recommend to use an NSF, the update side NSF, to install it on the server. These are the different stuff. Then the discussion NSF is a little bit special. It's a updated version of the XPage discussion NSF. And inside this NSF, I have used AngularJS with some additional tools like UI root and so on to build an Angular-based only client. That's still in progress because we know that you need samples, and more samples that you can adapt and use it as best as possible. And that's also the effort that we as open source community have to do together to make this a success. We need to provide samples how things can be done with SmartNSF. So that is the content of it. Is there a getting started course or a documentation? Yes, we have a documentation, and we know this documentation is so far not beginner friendly, to say it in not that rude words as you can use it. But we should work on that, and we will work on that. So once version 1 is out, my main intent will not be delivering more exciting features. My main intent will be making this usable for everybody, that everybody can find the right solution in the documentation by asking questions and so on. So if you have use cases, please participate in our Slack channel. Ask there the question. I will try to answer, and Martin will also try to answer the question. But especially all this question helps us to figure out what we have to document, what we have to show, how we should start with a beginner's manual. That's the way we want to move forward. It's, as I said, it's not my intention to deliver a version 2 with 200 new features when version 1 is not having that adoption rate that it should have with these 13 features that we have inside, or 13 strategies. Hope that answers too.
Okay, thanks, Christian. So have a question from Patrick, and a couple of questions, but basically all relate to, okay, if you were to use XPages as the client, is there any template or any code that you provide to help in basically consuming the JSON that the SmartNSF produces? Like any classes that you guys add or anything that you add in SmartNSF that would work for XPages or any Java application, I would assume.
Okay, I will answer that.
So.
You
Okay.
want?
Go ahead.
There are two things. First, the problem with integration of XPages is the following. If you want to use that to consume the JSON during your XPage round trip building the pages, that makes everything so complex. I don't think that this is the question you have asked, because that will be something that maybe screw everything up. If you want to use it more from a client-side approach, you could use the dojo that is bundled with XPages, but I would highly recommend that you use Angular JS. That means the one stream of Angular, and using their ng resources, because we try to provide a way that you can build a so-called symmetric API. And that's one of the fastest way to do and to have an exciting result with SmartNSF. But using SmartNSF and XPages and render all the stuff during the JSF round trip, I wouldn't recommend to do it. There is only one scenario where I can imagine that this makes some kind of sense, when you try to access a server somewhere out there and have some cross-site scripting problem. Yes, but so far we have also not any templates inside inside SmartNSF that you can consume the result on an easy way in XPages. Sorry for this more negotiated answer or negative answer. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, it's basically two different technologies, I guess. Well, I got a question from Forrest. How about security? How is that handled? How is that different or the same from our traditional Domino applications?
Okay, Martin, it's you now.
Yeah, okay. I've covered it very quickly. You can check if the user which is accessing the root is a member of the group or has a role on the database. So we're basically reusing the ACL that's on the database already. So this is the first layer of the security, making sure that the user is able to execute the root. And then in the validate event, you can even do some more advanced calculation if this user is allowed to do this operation on that document under conditions that you can then specify there. So that's another level of security that you can add there by yourself.
Yeah. So if you have something like approve this expense exposed as a root called /expense/approve/ID of the expense, you could say only people that has the role expense approver can execute this. And as you have seen, the map JSON allows you also to compute values with formulas, and that gives you also the capability that you can only expose values if a certain role is enabled for a user, because you can use there the whole stack that you have available with all the add formulas not related to any UI. So we are using the whole document read and reader author security complete. There is no override inside, and we are also using the whole stuff that you can have with roles and groups.
So now, do I assume then that regardless of what you put into your definitions, that you can never do more than what the ACL would allow that user?
Yes.
Okay. So basically all of your security that you add in kind of refines what the ACL does, what the ACL allows. So you're just kind of narrowing that down even more based on your definitions. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's a little bit the thing that you have with all this hide when stuff, when you can hide buttons or having sections that are role-based. That's the pendant to this.
Okay, got a question from Gregor, is there a way to read a configuration from the database for the database URL compute? I guess when you're figuring out the URL of the database or the URL to the JSON, to the REST service, is there a way to read in something from the database to help define that URL?
We have been talking to Gregor this morning on SmartNSF chat. His use case is quite complicated from SmartNSF point of view, because his configuration is stored in application scope, which, as Christian said, is not yet available to SmartNSF or for you in SmartNSF. So I guess the only way for him now would be to write the Groovy code, which will go to the database and read the configuration from there. But for now, his use case to read it from the application scope is not supported.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered all the questions that are posted here. So I'd like to just again point out the upcoming events. Again, mention the MWUG is kind of the main upcoming event coming up. If you're in the U.S., I strongly urge you to check that out. There's information on their website as well as on their Facebook page. And as I mentioned, keep an eye out for the sessions to be announced in sometime in the next week or so. I'd like to thank Christian and Martin for being our presenters today. And beyond that, I'd like to thank Christian and Martin. What they're doing on this project, they're doing for free. They do not get paid for this. This is an OpenNTF project. It's open source code. They're donating their time, which is very valuable, as all of you know, in the tech business. Christian even goes beyond that, and as I mentioned, is the chairman of OpenNTF. And I know he spends a lot of time on that. So I'd like to give a big thank you to Christian and Martin and all the people who contribute to OpenNTF, because you know the stuff you guys are doing is really helping us out in the community.